Jeopardy music.
We're on.
All right, we will call this December 11th, 2025 meeting of the Ad Hoc Reconstitution Committee and Executive Committee to order. We will start with approval of the minutes or consideration of approval of the minutes. You all have had a copy of those sent to you. I'll be happy to entertain a motion. They are not in your packet. Or wait, or is this the minutes that we have? Yes, you do have it.
So moved.
Have a motion, have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item C, discussion and action items. Item number 1, West Union update regarding the support resolution and rate/evaluation study. Chris Elliott.
All right, I will go ahead here and so I've got Mayor Oliver and Lawrence Flynn. They're joining us remotely. So I'll see if Mayor Oliver wants to give an update on this.
I did sign the resolution. I'm sick and didn't make it today, or I would have turned it in. But some questions that my council had, which is basically the same questions we've had for a while now. Most of the council, they don't understand why we cannot become a member. And they want us to be compensated for giving our system to you guys. What was the other thing? And for paying for the rate study. My attorney said, it really wasn't fair to ask us to pay for any of a rate study when we really had nothing to do with it. We would not be getting any money back from anything. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but basically they just don't want us to give up what little bit of sewer lines we do have without some kind of compensation.
All right, but and Mayor Oliver, you said you did sign the resolution, however, even with the
Yes, I did sign it.
Okay. Well, Mayor, I see Chris and Catherine Amadon taking a lot of notes, and I think those are West Union's concerns are pretty equal to the concerns with the other cities. We're waiting to see what those answers will be. But we do appreciate you folks taking additional time to think through and talk about this and give us your feedback. I think it's going to be a little bit more of an iterative process until we are able to nail down the exact answers to the questions that you guys have. Like I said, I think most of the cities have the same ones. So if it's all right with you, we ask you to just be patient with us as we keep working through this process, and we will at some point, hopefully not too far down the road, have answers to each of those questions so that you and your council can consider the answers to those questions and decide what you'd like to do.
Well, I mean, I guess my main thing would be if they did not want to do that, what alternative would we have? That's something I need to know.
We're gonna address that a little bit in item 4 today.
Oh, okay.
Lawrence, do you have anything you may want to add to answer or address any of the concerns she brought up? Particularly about the membership?
A couple of high-level points, because I did speak with Ms. McCormick, the West Union attorney, and we had a very good conversation. As y'all may remember, they made some fairly significant changes to the resolutions that were sent over. It telling us kind of from the jump and espousing the same considerations that the mayor just alluded to, but do send us a copy at your convenience. Ms. McCormick and I had the same conversation, and basically relative to the points that were just made, they are similar to what the other members have said. there's just, the issue you ultimately run into is the Oconee Joint Regional Sewer Authority only has the revenues generated from the customers that it serves. And so the idea of paying for that collection system is going to either have to be done on the basis of rate base, or it's going to have to be turned over and administered appropriately, because there's just not some additional pot of money at the end of the rainbow here that is going to be able to be available for distribution. The offsetting consideration on that is the same conversation that we've had with the other members is, it is a very small system. It's relatively tight, but, there's a regulatory pendulum that can swing in a direction. There are also fairly significant capital items that in the event they were to occur, if you had a major line break or you had some regulatory issue that you couldn't control, that's going to have to go back on your ratepayers as well. And so the idea of the efficiency of a larger system taking the responsibility for your collection system and the administration of its operation, there's some peace of mind associated with that. Is it going to be a windfall of cash in exchange for it? No, and that's never going to be a part of the conversation, simply because, for the reasons we've already talked about, there's just not the revenues to support it. Absent some windfall that may, that could potentially come available from some grant source. And then to the particular point on becoming a member, the city is just frankly too small vis-a-vis the other members. And so the idea of further diluting the interest of the existing members for a member that doesn't have 100 connections is just not something that the original ad hoc committee, when we were going through the process, thought made a whole lot of sense. So, and then relative to the request for the study, she also relayed that information. The request was that this organization is in the process of trying to go through the Reconstitution process, is looking to do the necessary work to figure out where value otherwise lies in order to avoid getting left out, even if you become a wholesale customer at some point in the future. Alluding to Catherine's point here in a second that we're going to talk about, there probably is still some value in recognizing improvements and needs that are attributable to your system, which may actually contribute to determining what value is. So, maybe none of those things are things that we want to hear, or they're not the solutions that we want to hear, but I think we've got to be really dogmatic in recognizing the limitations that this system produces and the limitations of running disparate and independent systems that obviously can all benefit from the kind of commonality and the efficiency of running as a larger organization.
Okay, do you see the rates changing at any point if we do, if a SAL goes through and everything gets done, do you see a big rate increase for our customers or any customers?
So obviously really can't speak to that, because we've got an independent rate consultant that we're going to bring on to be able to do that analysis. But, to that same point, if there's a requirement that the OJRSA pay for collection systems, the only way to make up those payments is through the issuance of debt, and that's going to have to be absorbed through rate base to be able to repay the debt. And to the extent other major capital needs are necessary, which have all been identified as, from engineering studies that have been produced in the past, it's specifically including, particular I&I issues on the collection system and the contributing, flow issues that creates on capacity at the treatment plant. All of that is going to require, capital improvements, and it's either going to be done at the individual collection agency, member point of view, or at the larger OJRSA point of view, and that's going to have to be absorbed in rates one way or another. So I think the one thing you can kind of stand on certain is that sewer is not getting cheaper, and so the idea that there would be any commitment that rates would be locked, which first of all would be unenforceable, because the rate policy is going to be established by this board in its current form or any future form, because that's obviously the purpose of the organization. But I think the idea of thinking that things are going to get cheaper is probably not a realistic way to look at this organization going forward. And that's regardless of whether or not the consolidation occurs or not. There's a lot of capital that needs to be done, and that's going to have a direct bearing on rates. And we'll see that likely manifest in whatever reporting that we receive from the rate consultants once they get on board to figure out how all this stuff gets implemented.
Okay.
Mayor Oliver, do you have any other comments or questions? I know it's a lot to listen to Lawrence this early in the morning. I'm joking. I'm picking on Lawrence, Mayor.
Especially when you're dizzy.
Yeah.
Now,
Kevin, I thought that was relatively concise.
It's still early to go, Lawrence.
once we, if at all, if what you want to do transpires, if the study comes out that way, I know we would probably still have to do our sewer report like we do every month, to send you guys payment. And I know we add a little bit of fee to that to collect for our workers doing that work. And I'm assuming that would all stay the same because I told my counsel, I said, you gotta be realistic about this. There's no way they can come through and put different meters on. We would still have to do that for them and add a little bit to it to get compensation for our work that we put into it.
Yeah, if we were to have to go and meter the sewer connections, then that, of course, that cost would be put on all the existing customers.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't see the sewer authority doing that. That's just too much to have to put out.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't get my group of people to understand that.
All right. Well, Mayor, thank you again. And like I said a few minutes ago, I think we're going to have, over time, some better responses, more fulsome information to be able to answer some of those questions and concerns. We're getting closer each time we get together. At least that's what Catherine tells me.
Okay.
And if you guys would just hang in there with us. And I am sorry that you're not feeling well today, so I hope you get to feeling better. And we appreciate you joining us all the same online. And you're welcome to continue to stay online and keep listening to the rest of the meeting.
I may listen for a little while longer and then let go.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Mayor.
No problem.
Is there anything else, Chris or Lawrence or Catherine or Joel, that we need to add in on item number 1 regarding West Union?
I don't think so, but I'll be happy to answer any questions offline with Mayor Oliver or her council regarding the operational side of things.
Okay.
I think we will be prepared to give a little bit more information on what a potential wholesale agreement would have to look like if that became an option. And we may talk a little bit more about that in this meeting today, but there are options, but they're not desirable options probably from anyone when you really get down to what it would take to put that type of agreement together. It's all about who's going to own the risk and both current and future. And so there's a lot of things have to go into those agreements. But anyway, we can provide more information to Mayor Oliver later on as we vet some of those potential avenues.
All right, with that, we'll move on to item number 2, Oconee County update regarding the support resolution. Mr. Glenn Hart, welcome to our group.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Plus, I'd like to thank my council for sending me here. As far as a resolution, I don't think I'd be here if it wasn't for the county supporting it. But I cannot make any decision without talking with my other council members and bringing it before them before we can, or I can come back and tell you what they want to be done, okay?
Do you need it sent back to you? Like, do you have it? I guess first question.
No.
Okay, so you need it sent to you. That's good to know.
I'll send it to you by email, to your district email address, I'm assuming. And I'll copy Phil on it as well.
Mhm.
And if there's any questions about that, I'm sure that Lawrence would be happy to talk with the
Okay.
county's attorney, whether that be Mr. Rude, or I think that you may have someone else that may be coming on as far
Mr.
as.
Root is gonna be there for another 4 months probably.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Hart. Moving on to item C3, update on amendment to Joint Authority Water and Sewer Systems Act. Lawrence Flynn.
So nothing has changed in terms of the substantive language of the act. As y'all may remember, and I think what we've talked about kind of from the jump, that we were going to try and get this pre-filed, and we are now in the pre-filing window since we're a month out from the start of the 26th season of the second year of the legislative session. So in anticipation of that, Chris, I believe, reached out to Senator Alexander this week. He actually asked if he could participate in the meeting today, but had a conflict. But then subsequent to that conversation, his chief administrative drafting liaison reached out to me. I sent him a copy of the most up-to-date version of the legislation earlier this week, and basically alluded to the fact that if he had any questions or needed anything, he could certainly reach out to me. I assume it will work its way through their legislative drafting process. It'll likely get cleaned up for conformance with whatever their protocols are for introduction, and I would anticipate that we will I'll hear something in the next week or two, assuming it's going to get pre-filed and introduced. Chris, you've had the relationship and the conversations with Senator Alexander. Anything additional to add to that?
I don't, we just communicated this week by messaging, and there wasn't really anything to add about that. I did meet with him, I think it was maybe back in September, and he didn't seem to have any questions or concerns that I can recall at this time. He just asked that I send him the Word version of the document, which I did, and I'm assuming that that's what you received back and sent to me, that we have included in here as Exhibit A today.
That's correct.
All right, thank you, Lawrence. Anything else, Lawrence, or Chris, on that one?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item number 4, communications with elected officials. Catherine Amadal.
Okay, well, I'll probably pass this out here in a second. So one of the things that was that came out of the recommendations from the original ad hoc committee is just having a communication plan that keeps messaging coming from this group and the OJRSA board clear and consistent to mostly the council members, so that everybody's hearing the same messaging. And so we decided as a consultant group, so Joel, Angie, and myself, that it would be really valuable if we started that, especially because obviously the news has continued to participate, which is great, and we've seen some articles come out that have actually been relatively informative, I think, to the general public. But what we want to make sure happens is that every council member, especially ones that just got voted in, that maybe haven't really known all about what's been happening over the last couple of years, are brought up to speed. Once brought up to speed, that there's some consistent messaging that is formatted in the same way and goes to those folks on a relatively regular basis from this group. And so we drafted, and I can hand you guys, this is a draft, and then pass that around, thank you.
No, you have a copy.
I have it on my computer. We drafted the first one, and this is intended to be, there's nothing earth-shattering in here. This is all stuff that has been published previously, but just acknowledging the fact that most of the council members probably are not going to fully read OJRSA's master plan, and they're probably not going to read the feasibility study. I was like, how tight can we get this communication? So we've taken an attempt at a draft, that first page and a half, which Chris has peeked at, is just quick background of why we want to do these memos in the first place, a background of the Reconstitution process, as tight as possibly you could get it, the Reconstitution recommendations, which does reference the June 16th document that was presented in a collaboration meeting between OJRSA and Oconee Council, if you guys remember that day where it like downpoured during that meeting and Chip was presenting. And then the next section is just some additional background information, which kind of reminds everybody of like why OJRSA even exists as an entity in the first place. So for those council members that maybe don't know that information, I gave them a little bit more on those last 4 pages to just dive into. So the question on the table today is, 1, do you support this initiative as an idea, as a group, and then what process do you want to go through for approving this so before it gets sent out, everybody feels comfortable with what's on here? This one is easy to feel comfortable with because nothing in here is earth-shattering or should be surprising to everybody, but in subsequent memos we're hoping to cover things like the wholesale options, what that means, what that looks like. And so think about just who and how you want that process to go, and then how we want to actually send it out. Like, should it come from you as the chair of OJRSA and it gets directly emailed to every council member, and then there's just no question of if people are getting the information or not, because we know it's getting emailed to them directly. So that's our suggestion. We look for your feedback on the process.
So, thinking about you here, Kat, one, appreciate this very much. I can just the glancing at it. Yeah, I know Joel. I know how she is. Appreciate you putting this together. I'm looking forward to reading that. I like the idea of the communication coming from you because I think you will go to extremes to make sure it's concise and readable. And I know when I'm reporting to my council, sometimes I'm afraid I'm going to miss something that's very important, and so I would appreciate having that. How it gets communicated, I'm fine with however the group decides it wants to communicate it. We'll let you.
Holistically, the process I think is awesome. I think that having this written communication certainly makes it clear. We all have different ways of communicating with our mayors and councils, and we can centralize the process around that, and everybody's getting the same information. I think it's a wonderful idea, and like Mr. Bronson, I appreciate you taking the time to come up with this recommendation and put the memo together. As far as the process, I think it's a good idea that there's a central point that distributes it to each of the mayors and councils. I don't know if that needs to be Chris. Probably doesn't need to be you, Kevin, as a Westminster,
I would feel weird communicating to your council. Right. I would rather it come from either
Chris or Kat.
Yeah, I don't object if it comes from you, Catherine, to them or Chris.
I mean, we would obviously need to provide
you personally.
I think it's better coming from Chris myself,
okay.
If that's okay for you to say. So I think we would all need to obviously get you the email addresses, and you would create the bulk email group. But how many, you guys use Outlook, right? We do. There's a limit to how many they allow you to put into a group. I don't know what that is. It's like 20 or something. So we've had to move to like a constant contact in order to send bulk emails out for the city and newsletters and things like that. But anyhow, that's another.
There might be a limit to like a group, but I think you can also just have them all saved in a Word document, copy paste them into blind copy.
Okay.
And I think you can do like 100 at least.
Okay. But I think Chris would be a great point. I don't want to put more on you, Chris, but I think that'd be a great place.
Yeah, we'll do all the legwork on developing these memos for sure. It's just.
I know one of the questions you have is, does this body need to approve the form of it and the data within it before it's actually sent out? And I'm assuming that's appropriate, Mr. Chair.
I'm fine either way. And hopefully you guys they're here on our behalf to help the process along. But if you want to make sure we preview it ahead of time, I don't think that's an issue.
Well, just one comment. That would be one benefit of it maybe coming from Catherine instead of from Chris. That it's not a work of the committee. It's just a summary of the events. And so,
I guess my question,
once it becomes a work of the committee, it takes on another level of approval and that sort of thing. So you could always point back and say, well, the consultants missed something, something wasn't right. I'm not trying to give an out, I'm just trying to,
I like that out, especially if it's on Catherine.
yeah. That puts Chris sometime, because it looks like an official approved document, whether it is or not, and that's a lot to ask you guys to read through the minutes, read through everything else, and approve every detail of a summary.
I guess my question for you then is, is that a position you feel comfortable with, sending them out without board or this body's approval?
I think internally, the three of us can certainly review it. Maybe we enlist Lawrence's gut check so that we're not saying anything inaccurate. And I'm not worried about this first one again, because actually, the second half of it is a direct pull from the master plan, and I wrote that section personally. So I, of course, feel good about it. When we start getting into some of the details about, the wholesale stuff, which Joel was already planning on enlisting Lawrence's help, we want to make sure that nothing goes to council that isn't true when it comes to logistics of how this moves forward. So I would like some level of review, whether it's Chris, you and Lawrence thumbs up it, and then it goes out.
Or you can send it out to us 5 days before,
Sure.
And then if anybody, has an objection, it's on us to review it, and if we have an objection, we can voice that prior to it being submitted to everybody else. And then if there's an objection, then we can bring it back to the board for approval. Or
Discussion,
vetting, discussion of vetting of the data and why it's inaccurate or whatever. Like that. I'm fine with that, if you're okay with that, because that puts it on me.
Yeah, I think that's fine. And the goal too is, and this is the phrase we just use in the industry, but we want this to be 8th grade reading level, because it should be readable by anybody who's any level of technical expertise in this space. So that's another reason why we wanted to work collaboratively, because when we start getting into some of the more legalese, we want to make sure Lawrence, you're already really good at this, but we're going to bring it down with just a hair, just so it's extra approachable. But Lawrence already sets us up for success most of the time.
Lawrence must make a lot of money, because he gets picked on.
I'm not making
I hope we're paying him well.
It's just the reality, right?
He makes a lot of money.
I am perfectly fine with it. Y'all pick away.
Okay. Mr. Hart, any thoughts on it from your perspective before we get to you and the rest of your council?
There's something that I didn't tell you when I was making my statement a while ago. They told me to come in here to nod yes or no and keep my mouth shut. So I won't follow that policy.
All right. Chip, any thoughts?
There's safety in that, there's comfort in that position.
I do like the idea of sending it to us, just so everybody, especially the cities, can look at it. So once we get to valuations and things like that, y'all might want to chime in at that point before something goes final.
Yeah, I think it's a passive approval, right? If you don't speak up, then
right.
Yeah.
It's approved.
All right, so we're good that Catherine is going to communicate this, and Catherine, you will give us 5-day heads up to review before it's distributed to those elected officials. Just as a point of logistics, I won't have all of the contact information for official capacity until after January 1st. So until my new council members come on, we don't start using the new emails. Okay.
And I think this first one can go out in January. I don't think it has to go out before Christmas. So if between now and January, or whenever you get them.
Do you mind sending that electronically to us? Because I will forward it to the new folks that aren't yet sworn in. I'm just trying to keep their personal emails a little bit protected from too much official communication.
Well, do you want to just literally wait and I can send it in January? And that way it's hi, this is who I am, this is what we're doing, this is the first memo.
You're talking about this one here?
Yeah.
It's already a public document. I could put it on the website. And if
Fair.
that'll save me the FOIA requests and having to deal with that too, if you're good with me, once they're disseminated, just going ahead and putting it on the website.
I do think it's still, even if it gets distributed in some form or fashion in December, in January, a formal email should come from me so we start that process and people get familiar with expecting it.
Yeah.
That's okay.
And I'll certainly give mine as
Yeah.
well, that's
Perfect.
and I know everybody will.
So I'll just need all the emails. Would be super helpful if everybody could send that to me, and then
Send them
make
all
a
on
list.
Christmas Eve.
And I can send you a reminder too. So
Now,
Can we include others, sorry,
No, you go ahead.
can we include others besides the council? I'm thinking
Yeah,
our
leadership.
assistants and,
Yeah, our staff, our utilities
management
director.
staff, utility director.
And
Absolutely.
since the media's here, would you also include them in that distribution? Since you're sending it out to everyone, it becomes a public document. I think the work that we're doing is enhanced when they report on it, whether it's Andrea, Caleb, or Dick Mangrum. Something fun must be going on for Dick. Not too good.
Well, he's usually.
Oh, he's on
there.
Good morning, Dick. So I think if you would include them, then that would just cut out them having to ask us for it.
Yeah.
They're going to get it anyway.
Yeah, it's
I
fine
think
with me. The whole goal is to have this be transparent. So
Okay.
I like that.
And I'll have their
You guys-
email
Oh,
addresses
you
so I
do?
can provide
Okay.
those
Alright.
to you.
Yeah, that'll save
And
it.
you're gonna, yeah, as we go, all of this is gonna be posted on your website, so it'll be available to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think ideally the email is like, there's no excuse. Everybody will have
Right,
seen
yeah,
it.
that's the target
Or
audience.
they've deleted it, but that's becomes not my problem.
Yeah.
Or yours.
Mayor Oliver, where do you want us to send that information to you or to the folks with the town?
You could send it to the main email, the contact at townwestunion.com.
Okay.
And then like whoever was said it, just put on there and say forward to everybody. And you can forward it to everybody in our council.
Do you want it to come to your email also, Mayor, or no?
Oh, you can, that's fine.
Because I do have yours, so.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
All right, Catherine, Joel, anything else with that one?
If there's any questions.
Or requests for what you want the next one to cover in general. Like, I mean, we can try to make some suggestions as a group as this evolves, but if
I
you're
think
like,
that-
hey, can you cover this? Because the goal is to make these bite-sized, so I don't want to have like, and we've got 10 topics piled up, and
Right.
now this document is huge. So
I think the next one, the consolidated question and answers might be good.
Yeah, a lot like what Mayor Oliver said, at least letting everybody know these are questions that we're looking for the answers to.
So just kind of group them collectively together as best we can.
Because I think those questions are just going to keep coming up
Right.
over and over, and they're going to read this and they may dismiss some of what's in here because they're thinking of those next questions. And I keep hearing the same questions like what Mayor Oliver articulated this morning over and over. So if you at least put that in the body of work that says, we're addressing this, and then as we come to a consensus on what the answers are, then you can start to fill those in.
perfect. Maybe it's explaining like the next step is the evaluation. What are those things? It's this. What questions do we hope to answer? These questions.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, great. Happy to do that.
All right. Any other discussion on that? All right, moving on to item number 5, update on financial studies. Angie is not here. Catherine, you're filling in. Or are we
Yeah,
just no,
well, I'm
putting on
hoping
that one?
Lawrence will tag team this with me because I think Lawrence was tasked with contacting First Triumph. So Angie was tasked with contacting Raptellis. Raptellis is in. They're very happy to be part of the process. They think given the amount of data that's already been made available that it hopefully won't be as heavy as a lift as the Metro Connect study that they did. So thumbs up basically there. So in terms of Raptellis and moving forward with them, one, just a reminder that we all agreed that sole sourcing could occur and I wanted to just confirm one more time that there wasn't anything that needed to happen in terms of like a formal vote at an OJRSA board to approve that. And then second, they want to work on developing scope fee, and our suggestion to help them with that is sending them I had somebody on our team at Bolton and Mink take all the data that had been provided for the master plan and the feasibility study that we put in folders that y'all had a chance to peek at and review, and we put it in what I call a document catalog. So we put it in Excel, this is the document, this is the organization it came from, and here's like a 2-sentence memo on what this document is, which should help the scope and fee development because they'll know exactly what they're getting. So we're okay with sharing that catalog, which if anybody wants to see what it looks like, I'm happy to put it up on the screen, but that would be something we would suggest, and I would want to do it for First Tryon if they're also in the same boat. Lawrence.
So I talked to First Tryon. They are also generally up to speed. I talked to David G. Wood. They're ready to be engaged and just need some direction as to how we want them to start moving.
So would it be reasonable to conclude that at the January meeting of this group, we'll be looking at what those costs would be? Cause I'm trying to think ahead. Once you tell us what those costs are gonna be, I've gotta go back to my council.
Right.
So you're gonna have 3 months from, you tell us, we go back, and then we come back. Is that something you think we can do at the January meeting? Am I asking ahead of schedule here on things?
I didn't speak to Raftella, so I don't want to make any sort of assumption about how quickly they can turn around scope and fee. If we get them that catalog this week, we can ask them that question and say, hey, like, what's your turnaround with the holiday season being
My gut says that's a little aggressive.
Okay.
I think we may have a better idea of some ranges, but that they,
So February may be
I would
more.
think February
Okay.
would be.
Well, and I'm not rushing that because we didn't budget for it, so the further I get it out in my fiscal year, the better.
Yeah. And, even at that, like I said, it'll take 2 or 3 months to get engagement, and then, there's data back and forth, so, the real cost of the study will be several months down the road, and it'll be spread out over the duration, so I don't think we're anywhere near ready to start dispersing funds for this, so.
Well, I'm fine with that. Any
Oh, good.
Mr. Hart, that's not a nod, yes or no, but any thoughts on that?
I'm plead the fifth.
He takes instructions very well.
Are we okay with sharing the catalog with Raftella?
Oh,
and
I'm
First Tryon?
fine with
Of
it. You
course.
ain't trouble.
Yeah, no issue.
I just pity the person you made catalog that. Is that an intern?
Oh my god, no, Cricket's amazing. She's done it for me on several projects.
Anyone with the name Cricket has got to be amazing.
She's awesome.
All right. Anything else there, Lawrence or Catherine? Yo.
Good on my end.
All right. So we'll move on to item number D, committee member discussion. Scott, I'll start with you since you're closest.
Yes, sir. I've got nothing today.
Chris?
Merry Christmas.
All right. Well, thank you. Mr. Hart?
Happy New Year.
Chip?
Happy Easter.
Lynn? No? Anything in the boxes? Like if I take a box, do I actually get a gift or is it just an empty box?
Now there's stuff in there for our employees.
Oh, okay, for your employees, we won't take those then. Joe, anything for us?
Well, I hate to be the one, but a couple of things I think we're gonna have to do pretty early in the year is revisit our schedule.
Okay.
We've had some changes, we've got different board members. We still have, I appreciate Mr. Hart's nodding, but we still don't know what the commitment potentially is from the county long term. And, I, as a non-citizen of this area, I keep, I hear things about potential service in Oconee County and potentially some things going on in Anderson County. And I've got to continue to ask myself as we try to push this forward, what does that look like and how does some of those relationships impact what we're trying to do as this group to consolidate. And so trying to get answers around some of those things, trying to put some information together on wholesale agreements and who may be interested in looking at that option. Those things, again, become rather complex, but we're going to have to get some answers, I think, in order to get past forward on a lot of those. And
So Catherine and Chris, can we make sure that's on the agenda for January to
And I know you're just nodding here today, so you're probably not ready to speak to any of that, but I mean, we've got to answer some questions, or we're gonna be sitting here again this time next year.
Well, Joel, listening to you say that, what might be helpful is to know what needs to be answered next for the critical path forward.
Well, I think full commitment that, this is a viable option, not just it's one thing to get a signed letter of resolution, but to look in people's eyes and say, yeah, we're all about this. And I know there's questions got to be answered to figure out the details, but, you know where your heart is today. And so we just need to figure that out. Because this group could waste a lot of resources and not solve any problems if we don't get some of these things answered pretty soon.
Knowing what those are, at least in terms of what I'll say the consultants' minds, I think would be helpful to this group and then ultimately everybody that's.
And I think we can address some of those things.
Yeah, even if you don't know all of them, what you're thinking right
I think it may be a good iteration as we compile all the questions. We've heard, we'll hear all the questions. I think we'll hear them all. Hopefully we'll get everybody's questions and there's nothing, that's held back. But then that'll allow us to say, all right, we know your questions now. Here are our questions trying to move this forward and help us to address some of those. Is that fair, Kathy?
Yeah, I guess the Anderson conversation was alive and well during the Fair Play study, which now is like a couple years ago. Is that conversation still happening at the county level? I guess that's a question for you, Mr. Hart. And then, Chip, the implications of that on the 208 plan.
From a 208 plan standpoint, the job of a 208 plan is to set out how regional service is provided. So we designate regional providers within it. We're the regional planning entity designated by the state. Management agencies like REWA or OJHA are established through that plan and everything. So at a minimum, if you were going to have a new facility put in place, it's like who's going to be the provider, who's going to be the management agency, what's it going to serve, and then there's going to be the balance of does it impact anybody else from an environmental standpoint, water quality standpoint, where it goes, what stream it's on, things like that. But then also, especially monetarily, the economics of it. Does it undermine the existing service of a regional provider? Are you taking away territory that they anticipated revenues or receiving revenues from? Because the existing provider, that's a huge public investment in the public sink already in facilities, and if you're going to undermine them, then it's not really beneficial to allow a different person to come in and provide that. So from a plan standpoint, the principals wouldn't really support that idea. So it just depends on how that plays out. There are times where new facilities come into play, but on a personal level, I spend a lot of time trying to advocate for consolidation into groups instead of lots of individuals. And usually when I have a lot of cities that own plants still, and it's really hard for them to be a regional entity, even though they are, because their decisions are always parochial to how it affects their city, when in reality they need to be thinking of how it affects the greater good. So anytime you get a local government body in place, you do have that. It's the same reason we're here to begin with, that dual responsibility to your citizens and to that regional effort. So we would certainly encourage anything that came along to be part of this process, not just off on its own.
Well, as Catherine, she's well aware of this, and she touched on it from the master plan standpoint. I challenged Weston and Sampson and Bolton and Mink to look at the potential plant option on the southern part of the county that would serve the Anderson area, as well as one on the eastern side of our county that could possibly take some load off of this facility here at some point in time, so that we would not have to expand this place. And correct me if I'm wrong, Catherine, and Jason Gillespie with Weston and Sampson's not with us today, but it came back that the most economically feasible option was to bring all the flow to this location, even from the interstate, as opposed to building a new facility.
And the receiving waters down there can't handle a very large plant anyway. That was the work that was done by Jeff DeBassinet.
Okay.
So that was another hindrance to that possibility. So yeah, good point bringing that up.
I should mention too that Celia Myers joined us a couple of minutes ago online.
I guess, do do you have anything to add? Like, has that conversation continued, or?
Well, I got an email from the engineer on the exit 4, and they're looking for one more permit from DOT before they can do any more because of the possibly drilling under or cutting the pavement. So that's where we're at.
And I'm familiar with this one too. So this is in the master plan to serve the parcel near exit 4, and it's to bring sewer to the existing infrastructure, the phase 2 that's in place now. So I provided a letter and sent it to Mr. Shirley the other day that was to go to DOT because DOT did not want to issue that permit to install this under the pavement. So I wrote a letter to them to be forwarded to DOT saying that we would be willing to do the operation and maintenance of that in the future, because I think DOT wanted that from us.
Did you get the email from Mr. Lee?
I did.
Okay.
I sure did. I used it. I had him draft the bulk of the letter for me, and I put it in the letter that I sent over to Mr. Shirley.
All right. Well, Joel, thank you.
Sorry.
Sorry. No.
Well, I've got a question for you, Joel, and it goes back to what you said a little while ago, I think when Mayor Oliver was talking. You mentioned something about the agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, that's something that I think was brought up is, what's the alternative? Especially among, you got West Union, who's not currently a member, right? So their only other option would be to be absorbed or be a standalone entity. So you'd have to figure out some type of agreement to allow that to happen. I think the Seneca has asked that same question to try to retain their autonomy over their system. Those are two different. They're the same mechanism, but they're two totally different things. To figure out what that would look like for Seneca is rather complex. It's more than just regulatory. You got to figure out, is it going to be a completely autonomous system, a real wholesale agreement, right? That all the customers, everything belongs to the wholesale customer and not to OJRSA. And so you'd have to set up a new rate structure. You'd have to figure out what this is like. You got to figure out what that does to projected revenue and OJRSA's ability to borrow money when you have a contractual agreement and they're not truly your customers. So that risk would have to be shifted somehow in the rates, and figure out capacity fees, capacity assurance, system operation, growth and planning. There's just a lot of things that would have to go into that and to make it work. Because you're talking about 60 to 70% of the system, right? And so that's a big deal to figure out. And so those things need to be taught. If that's something people want to pursue, we've got to put some effort into figuring out what that would look like so people can make a decision.
Thus our concern and our questions about that, because you just named off a number of very significant things that have to be built in. But those are also things that we'd be giving up in order to turn us.
That's right. So it's all about risk. What are you willing to own? What are you willing to give up? And what does that transaction look like long term? And so, again, it's not simple. There's not a simple answer to that, but that's something we can go ahead and start, listing out some of the components that would be a part of those type of agreements, and where we see the potential impediment to moving forward with some of those things, and so we can address it. And so, again, it's not something that can be done very quickly, but it's something that needs to be probably answered. Because I think, again, that goes to the county too. I keep in my mind, if the county, Oconee County, puts sewer on the southern end, then what do they really, what interest do they have up here, right? That kind of takes their interest long term, I would think, out of that. And so that's a potential threat to the long-term viability of this entity. If they've invested in serving the lower part of the county, then all of a sudden there's another option. How does this entity protect itself from losing that customer base long term? Does that make sense to you? So again, those are some complex things that have some real implications long term. we'll try to put some answers together so we can discuss those things.
Okay.
Did that answer your question, Chris?
I think so.
Catherine?
I do have something. So, just going back to your packet here, that last part, which we didn't really cover during 5, is just the request from the last meeting to provide expected outcomes for the feasibility study and the expected outcomes for collection system rate study. So that's the work that First Tryon and Raftellus would be doing. And I think you requested that at the end of the last meeting, if I'm not mistaken. And so, just to be clear, I know we agreed that we're gonna get Raftellus and First Tryon going. Do you need to review this with your council and provide any feedback on these expected outcomes, or are you just happy this is here and you have it? And you wanted me to make sure I talked about that.
I think it's good to have this. Ultimately, I think this is going to generate, the big questions will come down to cost, Catherine. What is the cost? But it's good for them to know what this is going to be. So I will share this with our council as it exists in the future one too. So I think that's enough. I think that's enough for now.
Okay.
Because once they know what this is, then I think once we get the pricing scenarios nailed down, to remind everybody this again may be helpful. Like what is it that we're achieving? Does that help?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a little bit fragmented in my thinking there. But.
And we should probably arguably send this to First Tryon and Raftellus to make sure that they see it too. And if they're like, well, actually there's one thing that we would do instead, or what have you. So it could evolve, but you wanted it by now, so we wanted to get that done.
Well, that's great. I forgot I wanted that. So
Yeah. We try to stay organized over here.
The accountability partner, right?
Anything else, Kathy?
I think that was it for my list.
Celia, I've heard that you've joined us remotely. Do you have any comments or questions for the group from what you've heard?
I do not. I will apologize again for my tardiness. Our meeting this morning, there was some issues, traffic in Greenville, so we got started 30 minutes late and it pushed everything back. So I do apologize, but I did hear the tail end of the conversation. I will do the same as far as sharing information with our council and our oncoming water and sewer committee and let them provide feedback. But so far we're still moving forward and we're still expecting to form a partnership and come up with a compromise to join as of right now.
I don't think Ms. Celia heard the conversation about the memo communication. So Chris, will you contact her when we get done with the meeting and let her know about the process we're going to implement for communicating with mayor and council? I don't think she was on during that. So that would be helpful for her to know.
And CC me because I'll need her email.
Yep.
Yes. Okay, thank you, Celia. And Lawrence, anything for the good group?
All good here.
Okay, well, I'd like to take just a point of privilege to congratulate you, Lawrence. I see you were voted best of some lawyer group. I'm not sure who votes on those kind of things, but I see that you came out on top. So congratulations to you and the rest of the votes.
Pope and Flynn.
Yeah, Pope. The best of.
He gets it every other year.
Yeah, congratulations to you and to your group, because we all know that you have a strong group of folks behind you. So, what was that?
Some made up award.
Oh,
sure, it's well deserved.
Well, at least you vote for yourself, Lawrence. Nobody else.
100%. If I can't support myself, who will?
Yes.
Well, I think you need to also mention something that we never saw happening in our lifetime, that Lawrence attended an ACC championship football school.
Oh.
As a Duke grad. Whoever would have thought that would have happened?
Fabulous day. If I had only not had to watch it from the hospital after my son swallowed a ball of magnets this weekend,
Oh,
it would have been a truly fantastic day. Oh, everyone is good, but don't chew on maggots.
Don't shoot on
I
magnets.
told that my 10-year-old would have had a colonoscopy before me.
Poor guy. That's a good PSA though. Don't chew on magnets.
Don't chew on magnets. That is a hard lesson to learn.
I feel like there's so much more to this story.
Wisdom, that knowledge you gained 5 seconds after you swallowed the magnet.
Yeah. All right. Well, and I'll, Mr. Adams, you got any questions or comments for the board or the group? No. Well, we appreciate you coming, being informed. Ms. Kelly, anything for the group? Thank you for being here. Thank you for the reporting that you do. Catherine will tell us whether or not you get it correct or not when you do your report. Anything else before we adjourn?
Take a cookie. Happy holidays.
Take a cookie. Happy holidays. Don't inhale while you eat the cookie because the powder may choke you. Is that that's the other PSA for today?
Yeah.
All right. Well, without objection, we'll adjourn the meeting.
All right, guys. Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Chris.
See you, Lawrence.
Bye, guys.
So this is a special